Hi. So I thought I'd kind of tell my story because some of you know little bits and pieces, but no one knows how my journey started unless you were there. I thought, what's a better time than after I just got my paw removed? Yeah, look how pale I am. But anyway, it is still numb. I'll have time to edit the video. So here it is. So everything kind of went downhill at the end of 2014. I started experiencing like chronic nausea and I was just not feeling great. And I also started experiencing pain like under my, like by my left rib cage side. And so it was during my grade 9 exam, so it was maybe like a bit of stress is what the doctor wrote us off as, and my mom and I too. And so I went to the GP. She's like, let's see how you go during the holidays, but I'm prescribing you this and this. So she prescribed all of that. Then we go on a beach holiday and I slept the whole time. Prior to this, I was not a napper. I fell asleep on the beach. I fell asleep on the beach chair by the swimming pool. I was napping. So my parents definitely knew something was up. I even napped in the car, which is not like me. So the fatigue was real and I was not feeling great. And the nausea was like kind of like queasy nausea. It wasn't, yeah, I'm not gonna say that in case some of you are squeamish, but you get it. So like no appetite, that kind of thing. But I never felt the need to, yeah. Anyway, so the pain was still there. So when I came back, my GP suggested we do a sonar. So we did a sonar. Couldn't really find anything except there was like a 2 centimeter cyst on my ovaries. And she wasn't too concerned about that. She's like, that can't be what's causing the pain. And so after that, she kind of just gave me stuff to help. Something called Librax, which is for IBS, and something to help with my colon, something with an L, Laxon. And so I'm on this stuff and I'm like going through grade 10, things are okay. I'm still not 100%. Eventually I was at the point where I had to carry like a pillow with me at all times because it was just so uncomfortable over the rib cage, left side of my rib cage. Eventually I was prescribed. I was sent to a gastroenterologist and he did a gastroscopy and colonoscopy, and that picked up nothing. Everything was fine. And one thing we had noticed, I think it was just before I went under or just after, we noticed my like butterfly, like a lupus butterfly rash, but it was just red on the one side. This was before we knew what lupus even was. And I remember my mom even like took a photo because like the doctor pointed it out and like we saw it and we're like, huh? So yeah. Anyway, after that, it's kind of a bit of a blur. I saw more and more doctors. I remember this one physician, because I was still 15, I had to have my parents like with me in the consultations, and the one physician like looks at my mom and goes, have you considered that this is all in her head and she's faking it? And my mom looked at him and says, she's definitely not faking it, and she got up and she left. So it was just me and my dad sitting there and we're like, okay, thank you doctor, bye. Yeah, so I got a lot of gaslighting and on a lot of like, we can't figure out what's wrong with you. Yeah, eventually when it was time for like the June exams in South Africa, I was really not feeling well. I got special, I don't know what you want to call it, like special permission to write my exams away from where everyone else was writing because I needed like breaks to stand up and it was just better for my health at that stage to think of the other learners and just have my own like space with a person watching me. During that time I had a severe bladder infection, which ended up being a kidney infection. And so I think I stopped just before like my last 2 exams. I couldn't, like, the pain was too bad. And so my parents made the decision to take me out of school. And so I didn't go back after the June, July holidays. And so from there on, it was more specialists, more doctors, and more people telling me, we don't know what's wrong with you. I could write a book one day on all the kinds of doctors I saw, but anyway, towards the end of the year, I think around September, I went to go see a physio that specializes in chronic pain. And she was well recommended because by this point it was chronic pain and they still didn't know why I was getting it. And so the physio was like, I think this is autoimmune, because looking at your MRIs, your CAT scans, everything, it just makes it that there's something underlying that needs further investigation. And so she referred us to a rheumatologist, and she says, I only recommend you go to her. And we're like, okay. So we phone, oh no, doctor can only see you next year, May. And we're like, okay, like, can you please just put us on a cancellation list? If you ever make an appointment and the doctor's like, I can only see you in X amount of months, ask to be put on a cancellation list, because they will have one. And that has saved me many times. Anyway, so we carry on. We're like, okay, now I need to go back to school sometime. So by God's grace, I was able to see my rheumatologist on the 7th of December, or around there. I know it was December. And so, because she had recovered early from an eye surgery and decided she was only going to see new patients because she was, the leave she took, she was back a day earlier. So luckily we were one of those. And so I went to go see her, and for the first time I felt like I was listened to and I was heard, and I was like, yeah. By that time, also to add, I had already been experiencing like joint pain, and so, but I didn't know it was joint pain, because I mean, at 16 years old, like, who knows what joint pain feels like. And so my symptoms had like, I didn't just have the pain over my left rib cage, I had and the fatigue and the nausea. I had joint pain and a bunch of other things. And so my rheumatologist is one of the best in the country, and she's on the South African Rheumatology Board and that kind of thing. So she kind of gave me one look and she's like, this is most likely autoimmune for sure. She gave me a physical examination, and she felt my joints and my hands, and she's like, your joints are extremely swollen, and if I were to look at you right now and get your blood test right now, you most likely have rheumatoid arthritis. And so she kind of gave me a diagnosis then and there, but obviously you have to do like a blood test and that kind of thing. So this is like a huge sign of relief, sorry. And it was really great that we finally had answers. With regards to the rib cage pain, I was severely constipated, and what had also happened is my diaphragm was anyway, it was in a spasm, and that had been putting pressure over where your diaphragm's supposed to be. Mine was higher up. And so after lots of physio and lots of pico prep and laxatives and sorry, TMI, but that's what happened. The pain had subsided, and yeah, I was on a lot of movie calls. When someone's like, can I give you, I'm like, no, I will find a way. I know there's other ways that will help. Yeah, and so once I got my blood test results back, she's like, okay, we didn't pick up that you had rheumatoid arthritis. I'm like, she says, but there's something called seronegative rheumatoid arthritis, which means you have the type of rheumatoid arthritis that is not detectable by blood, but you have all the like underlying symptoms and other like blood tests that could confirm it. Not confirm it, from my understanding, is like if your white blood cells are a little bit low and you have the symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis, then you got it. I could be extremely wrong. So yeah, I was diagnosed with seronegative rheumatoid arthritis. I also had a sonar of my wrists and stuff, so that was also how they could tell that I had RA. I was also diagnosed with lupus and fibromyalgia, which fibro, if you know, you know. Otherwise, you can just Google fibro chronic pain. It should come up. And yeah, the brain fog. Yeah, so after that, she started me on medication. She said my RA was quite advanced, so she would have actually put me on a higher dosage of medication. But because the medical aid needs to see that this medication wasn't working, we need the patient to be on something else. You have to have a paper trail. So I had to start from the low dosage and move my way up. And so that was done after, like, I don't even know how long it was, but it was long. And yeah, it has been, by the end of this year, it will be 11 years since I was diagnosed. Like, not officially. January was 10 years because I was diagnosed on 12th, I think, of Jan, or 13th. Somewhere around there, because I was admitted on the 11th. And so it's been 10 years since my diagnosis, and it is a huge relief. Never stop advocating for yourself until you get the answers you need. It has been a roller coaster. My RA is still not like 100%, because it can go into what they call remission, where it's stable. Like, it's still there, but it's stable, it's managed, that kind of thing. I was kind of on my way to remission, and then my medical aid was like, we're not paying for your medication anymore. And we're like, okay, we don't have 8,000 Rand for this injection. So I kind of went out of remission. And the medical aid was like, oh, so it actually works. And we're like, yeah. Why do you think I was taking it for 3 years or 2 years or however long I would take it? Anyway, that's that. I will do a part 2, 3, 4 because a lot more diagnoses came after the RA. But yeah, that's how my journey started. I will answer any questions you have in the comments, and stay tuned for part 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, bye.